Chapter 834. Most of the trees on Yanming Mountain had maple leaves. Every autumn, a large number of autumn geese from the north of the mountain would land among the maple trees, chirping endlessly, hence the name. Spring came early in the south of the mountain, and in April Yanming Mountain was full of life. The maple trees sprouted new green or red leaves and the birds swayed. It was a beautiful sight. Tuck, tuck, tuck. The carriage pulled by 4 war horses sped along the winding mountain road. Many parts of the road were blocked by rocks, so the carriage had to stop from time to time. The old man in the carriage kept coughing violently. Behind the carriage, a total of 8 guards dressed in dark blue and purple military uniforms followed closely. Yao Yuan did not bring many people with him on this trip. At least it did not match his status as a marquis. Stop. Halfway up the mountain, a young girl in strange clothes descended from the sky with a low shout. She was holding a long sword with flowing light in her hand. She was wearing the clothes of a battle angel, which naturally looked strange in the eyes of the people from the Shattered Cauldron world. She stared with her starry eyes and said, "Who are you? Don't trespass on Yanming Mountain." The coachman hurriedly stopped the horses and opened the curtain of the carriage. Yao Yuan, who looked ill, was sitting inside. He said respectfully, "Miss, I am Marquis Jinghai of the Qin Empire, Yao Yuan. I would like to see Miss Xin." "Marquis Jinghai?" The young girl squinted her eyes and smiled. "Don't you know that the 2 countries are at war? This is the camp of the Battle Angels, and the Battle Angels belong to the camp of the Celestial Pole continent. Aren't you afraid of being cut into pieces and thrown down the mountain?" Yao Yuan's body trembled slightly. "I am old and my death is not to be regretted. However, if I can exchange my old life for the millions of lives in the Lingkong province to be saved, I will die without regrets." "Humph, is that so?" The young girl snorted and said, "You are lucky to have met me, Terralyn. Otherwise your life might really be worthless and killed. Come with me." "Thank you, miss." Terralyn flew gently in front and led Yao Yuan's carriage forward. Not long after, another battle angel appeared. It was Luo Fei with a shield. "Terralyn, what's wrong with these people?" Luo Fei stepped on a cloud, surrounded by divine power. He looked like a god of war descending to the mortal world. He frowned and said, "Didn't I say that no strangers are allowed to go to Yanming Mountain? This is the resting and training ground of our Battle Angel Corps. How can we allow mortals to desecrate it?" "They want to see Lord Xin," Terralyn replied simply. "How can it be so easy for mortals to meet the gods of the upper realm? Do you think Lord Xin is someone they can meet just because they want to?" Luo Fei raised his eyebrows. "Terralyn, aren't you being too arbitrary and bossy?" Terralyn smiled faintly. "Luo Fei, I know you're from Dora, but it's best if you don't interfere in this matter. Otherwise you'll be asking for trouble." "That's right." Terralyn raised her long neck and shouted towards the sky above the mountain range. "Lord Xin, Marquis of the Tranquil Sea, Yao Yuan from Shattered Cauldron Realms Linghan City wants to see you. If you can hear him, please come to the eastern mountainside." "Terralyn." Luo Fei trembled with anger. "What do you mean by this? Are you using Lord Xin to pressure me?" "So what?" Terralyn giggled. "Luo Fei, I told you to look for food. Have you found it yet? There are so many wild animals on Yanming Mountain. A level 6 battle angel like you should be able to hunt even one, right? Then you're really useless." "Who says I can't hunt?" Luo Fei's expression was livid. He waved his hand behind him and a huge single-horned deer appeared behind him. At this moment the sound of space tearing came from the sky. 2 people appeared at once. With the spread of divine power, Xin and Dora descended from the sky. "What's going on?" Dora asked. Luo Fei said, "Lord Xin, Dora, Terralyn brought someone up the mountain without permission. I stopped her." "Who is it?" Dora's gaze fell on the carriage. "It's me." An old voice came from the carriage. After the curtain was pulled open, a servant respectfully helped Yao Yuan down the carriage. Yao Yuan didn't dare to raise his head. He bowed and said, "Chief of the Qin Empire's High Sky Province, Marquis Yao Yuan, greets Lord Xin." Xin closed his eyes and nodded. "No need to be so polite." Yao Yuan stood up and panted heavily. He looked up at Xin and Xin. When Yao Yuan's gaze fell on Xin, his body suddenly trembled violently. He knelt on the ground and stammered, "Ting, Princess Qin, Princess Yin, is that you? Is it really you?" "I'm not your Princess Yin." Xin was incomparably calm. He said, I'm Xian, a level 7 battle angel from the Western Divine Realm. Marquis Xian, you don't have to kneel to me. No, it must be you. Yao Yuan shook his head. Perhaps due to his emotions, tears flowed down his old face. He said, Your Highness, do you not remember me? When you were young, this old subject once carried you, and also, on your 7th birthday, this old subject even gave you a dark steel dagger to protect yourself. Could it be that you've already forgotten about it? No, I'm not her. Xian's eyelashes trembled slightly. She looked up at the sky and a mist fell down. She said, Lord Yao Yuan, why did you come to find me? Yao Yuan looked at her in disbelief. He said, this old subject. He stammered for a long time but didn't know what to say. He suddenly knelt on the ground again and cried, You're not Xian. You're Qin. You're the Empress of our Qin Empire. You've been gone for 6 years. Do you know how we, the officials, have endured? Do you know how much Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing and Qin Yan, the 3 highnesses, have done for you? Now that the celestial pole continent is invading, the people are in misery and suffering. How many of your people are losing their families? Quickly come back, this old subject is begging you. As he spoke, Yao Yuan's forehead heavily knocked on the ground. Instantly the mountain rocks broke his skin and blood flowed down. It was very bleak. But a group of guards knelt in a circle. All of them were sad and angry. Why does Marquis have to humiliate himself like this? Since she doesn't admit that she's the Empress, then she probably isn't. Marquis, quickly get up. All of you get out of my way. Yao Yuan's palm landed on the ground. Battle Qi swirled and he pushed the guards away by force. He raised his head to look at Qin Yin and said, Your Highness, it's fine that you don't remember this old subject, but have you also forgotten this cloak? His cloak was a little shabby and worn out, but it could be seen that he took good care of it. The golden purple Yin flower at the hem of the cloak was so beautiful that it seemed real under the morning light. This is the purple Yin flower that you personally rusted. Could it be that your Highness has forgotten the ancestral teachings of the kings of your family? Have you forgotten who you once were? Your brother Lin Muyu went through wind and water in order to help you guard this land. He suffered so much hardship and endured so much humiliation for so many years. Could it be that your Highness really has the heart to see him continue like this? Xian opened her small mouth but didn't continue speaking. Yao Yuan clenched his teeth and said, Your Highness, open your eyes and look at this old subject. Look at this land that belongs to you, okay? Xian's eyelashes trembled slightly. She clenched her teeth and slowly shook her head. No, Yao Yuan, you don't want to see me open my eyes. What do you want to do by coming here this time? Yao Yuan's heart ached. He said, These greedy wolves of the Blackstone Empire are cruel and ruthless. They are bloodthirsty and tyrannical. They massacred the entire Dongtian prefecture. Along the way, countless citizens of the empire died under their blades. Now that they are about to attack Linghan City, if the city falls, the millions of citizens in the city will be wiped out. Since your Highness is not willing to admit it, this old subject will not ask your Highness to help us defend Linghan City. I only ask that your Highness show mercy and save the innocent citizens in the city. After this old subject dies in battle, don't let the beasts of the Blackstone Empire massacre the city. Is that okay? Interesting. Dora laughed coldly and said, Yao Yuan, we are enemies. You are begging the enemy to let you go. Do you take us for fools or have you really gone senile? Yao Yuan was silent, his brows furrowed. Luo Fei also laughed. Old man, scram down the mountain. There is no Qin Yin here. There is only Xian of the Western Divine Realm here. Scram, if you dare to spout nonsense here again, I will not let you go. A group of guards pulled out their swords and stood guard around Yao Yuan. They knew that these young men in front of them were all gods, but none of them retreated. Each of them had the courage to face death with equanimity. Just then a soft voice rang out, Fine, I promise you. It was Xian's voice. Dora and Luo Fei froze. Yao Yuan cupped his fists and knelt on the ground. Then this old subject will represent the citizens of Linghan City to thank your Highness Xian. Yao Yuan stood up. Although his body was very weak, he raised his head and looked coldly at Dora and Luo Fei. He said, That's right, we are enemies. If the Blackstone Empire's army wants to come, then come. This old man will sharpen his sword and wait for you. If you want to eat the capital of Linghan City, be careful that your teeth don't fall out. Luo Fei was silent. Dora watched as Yao Yuan's carriage left, then frowned and said, Xin, we can't interfere too much with the Blackstone Empire's army. At the end of the day they are the ones fighting and we are just helping them. If you keep interfering with the rules of the Blackstone Empire's army, I'm afraid it's not right. If we anger their Marshal Bailey Qin, it won't be a good thing for us. After saying that, Dora paused for a moment, then said meaningfully, Bailey Qin's talent is astonishing, and he has 87 heavenly passages cultivation. Even in the entire plane there are few who can match him. Even we. I'm afraid none of us are a match for him. I hope that you will consider carefully and not anger the God Emperor of the mortal realm. Otherwise, none of us will have a good time. No need to say anything, Dora. Xin turned around and closed his eyes. His face was expressionless as he said, I know what to do, I don't need you to teach me. But you seem to have forgotten your identity as a god of the heavenly realm. Ever since you came to the mortal realm, your killing intent has become more and more intense. Don't forget your identity. You are a level 6 black-winged battle angel, not a bloodthirsty demon. I naturally know. I don't need you to remind me. When will the Dragon Island's army be sent over? They are already on the way. Tomorrow morning the Ashen Flame army will attack Linghan City. I plan to lead my 10 Dragon Knights to assist them. What do you think? Up to you. Xin seemed a little tired. He sighed and said, Terilyn, let's go back. Chapter 835. Bang! The huge torch rock landed on the city wall, crushing the corpses of the soldiers and leaving behind a trail of blood. Screams of agony could be heard as more than 10 soldiers were buried in the sea of fire. Below Linghan City the sound of springs could be heard. The Black Market Empire's siege weapons were brutal and effective. The entire Linghan City's city wall was almost turned into a sea of fire. Bang bang bang. The mushroom cloud from the magic crystal cannons bloomed on the ground, but it was getting smaller and smaller. A giant dragon flew above the city, and a dragon knight's sharp sword disintegrated a heavy cannon. Protect the magic crystal cannons. Protect the magic crystal cannons. A captaincy with a face full of scars shouted. He pulled his bow and sent an arrow into the chest of an enemy below the city wall. He took a few quick steps and shouted to the people in the city, Quick, there are too many wounded soldiers on the city wall. We need people to bring them to receive treatment. Also, we need a lot of nightmare rocks and rolling logs. Elders of Linghan City, as long as we are united, we will definitely be able to protect our home. The people in the city were furious. Many young people were already shouting, We want to join the army. But a dragon's roar swept across the sky, and a long dragon flame attack engulfed the streets of the city. In an instant the densely packed people were turned into ashes. Their limbs were twisted from the heat, and their bodies emitted a burnt smell. Captaincy was slightly stunned. He looked up at the dragon knight in the sky and roared, Be *starred. Be *starred. A spear pierced through his chest from behind. The dragon knight circling the edge of the city wall revealed a sinister smile. You dare to be distracted in such an intense battle? You're asking for death. Just like this, the magic crystal cannons on the city that they relied on to go against their enemies were destroyed one by one, and it was equivalent to losing their final resistance. It was utterly impossible to resist the Darkstone Empire's dragon knights by relying on ordinary swords and sabers. Not to mention the dragon knights of the Tianji Empire were flying in the sky as well. The giant dragon's head slowly twisted and spewed flames into the city's sacred palace. A group of cultivators who were moving weapons and magic crystal cannons were burned to ashes in the blink of an eye. The dragon rider on the dragon's back grunted coldly and said, Lord Gong Yongjin, as members of the Heavenly Dawn Dragon Riders, why should we help this group of barbarians from the Darkstone Empire to attack the city? Our army is fighting in the northern Heavenspan province and here we are helping our enemies? What a joke. Ramjin raised his spear and stood on the dragon's back. Don't complain. This is Battle Angel Dora's order. Don't forget what His Majesty told us. We have to listen to Lady Dora and we have to follow her orders until the war ends. At that time we can return to the Tianji Dragon Riders and serve His Majesty and the Marshal. Yes. How many Shattered Cauldron Realm soldiers are left in Linghan City? Less than 10,000, I think. The southern barbarians of the Blackstone Empire are really powerful. They used close to 200,000 people to besiege Linghan City. That Yao Yuan should have surrendered long ago, but he led a few tens of thousands of people to fight like a cornered beast. It's a pity that these tens of thousands of lives have been wasted. Is that so? Ram Jin's eyes were cold. If Yao Yuan really surrendered like the soldiers of the other cities, then I'm starting to look down on the Shattered Cauldron Realm army. From the looks of it, they're not bad. Although they're weak, their fighting spirit is still there. Yes, below the city, a black flag fluttered in the wind amidst the lingering smoke. The Blackstone Empire army's main tent was set up 3 miles away from the city, just out of the range of the enemy's magic crystal cannons. In front of the tent, there was a spectator stand about 3 meters tall, and on it stood a few people dressed in general's armor. One of them was Fu Yu, the commander of the Ashen Flame army, and also the commander of this attack on Linghan City. However, at this moment, the arrogant Fu Yu actually had a respectful expression as he stood with his hands by his side behind a middle-aged expert. The middle-aged expert wore a golden cloak. He was the Darkstone Empire's marshal, one of the saint martial gods that was renowned for being bloodthirsty and cruel, Bailey Qin. Commander Fu Yu, you've already lost close to 30,000 people to attack a mere Linghan City. I heard that there are only 40 to 50,000 soldiers in this city. Bailey Qin's voice was very calm, but it was filled with killing intent. Fu Yu hurriedly knelt on one knee and said, "Marshal is right. I'm useless. However, the Qin Empire's magic crystal cannons are really powerful. Most of our soldiers died to the power of the magic crystal cannons." Bailey Qin laughed coldly. "If it wasn't for the help of the Black Rock Dragon Cavalry, I really doubt that you could take down Linghan City." Fu Yu's face was covered in beads of sweat. He said, "Marshal, I know I was wrong." "Is that so?" Bailey Qin lazily looked at the blazing sun in the sky and said, "By noon I want to see the East Gate fall. I want to see the head of General Yao Yuan. Otherwise you can give your position to the Vice General." "Yes, I will definitely do it. Men, prepare a horse." Fu Yu raised his long blade and leaped onto the back of a horse, personally supervising the battle. Just as Fu Yu was nearing the city gate, a flurry of arrows rained down from the top of the city walls. Pai Pai Pa Pa sounds rang out as they collided with his god power astral shield, causing Fu Yu to feel a dull pain. Looking up, he saw a group of elite archers. They were the elite archers under Yao Yuan's command, the elite archers of the elite archers. They could draw their bows and use white diamond arrows. Their killing power was astonishing. It was also the elite archers that prevented the Blue Flame army and even the Dragon Knights from approaching the East Gate Tower. "Bastard!" Fu Yu roared angrily. He raised his long blade and slashed out a blazing aura. However, a general on the city wall raised his long sword. With a whang sound, the power of heaven and earth surged, and an extremely strong frost wall appeared above the city wall. With a ping sound, Fu Yu's all-out attack was actually ineffective. Heavenly Book. Fu Yu sneered. The people from the Shattered Cauldron Realm are indeed related to the Thunder Blaze sect and the Heavenly Book sect. They are actually good at inscribing heavenly books. How hateful. The vice general behind him said, "Commander, that old fellow Yao Yuan is on the East Gate Tower. Cover me. I will go and chop off his head." "Yes." Fu Yu raised his battle blade and flew up. His god power pulsed and flames engulfed his body. He roared and rushed to the top of the city gate tower. However, the city gate tower was filled with the archers of the elite archers. White diamond arrows flew out and hit Fu Yu's god power astral shield. At the same time, the surroundings were filled with Zhou Xian energy. Fu Yu knew that it was disrupting his god power. Naturally, he did not want to shatter the void. Just as Fu Yu's head appeared, a magic crystal crossbow exploded. Amidst the miserable howl, this commander who had underestimated his enemy was blown to the ground. A group of soldiers holding spears rushed forward, afraid that he would be blown to death. He is still not dead. On the city gate tower, Yao Yuan was wearing a white imperial forest armor. His face was ashen as he said, "Continue like this. Elite Bow Camp and Iron Shield Camp, hold on. As long as we defend the city gate tower, we will be able to wait for reinforcements. Marquis Cangnan Su Jiantao is already on the way with 50,000 elites. As long as Su Jiantao, one of the 3 tiger generals of the Valiant Dragon Army, arrives, the Blackstone Empire's army will be unstoppable." Everyone said in unison, "Yes, Marquis." Su Jiantao and Yao Yuan were both part of the 5 marquises of the empire. At this time for Yao Yuan, Su Jiantao was the only savior. The 3 tiger generals of the Longdan army camp were Wei Chou, Situ Sin and Su Jiantao. In the past few years, Wei Chou and Situ Sin had joined hands to exterminate the demon race, proving their military talent. Now, only Su Jiantao had the title of Tiger General but had not made any achievements. However, no one would doubt Su Jiantao's commanding ability. After all, none of the generals brought up by Lin Muyu, one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan, were easy to deal with. Lin Muyu dared to let Su Jiantao guard the entire Tsangnan province, which was enough to prove that Su Jiantao could take charge of an area on his own. The sound of arrows being released could be heard incessantly. Although the roars of the dragons on the city wall did not stop, the city gate was still very strong. On the contrary, the guards began to use the dexterous magic crystal crossbows to fight at close range. The army of the Qin Empire actually gained the upper hand. They repelled the attacks of the strong enemies again and again, giving everyone a glimmer of hope to defend the city. In the air, the ballistae exploded. Thick and long white arrows shot into the abdomen of the dragons, injuring many dragon knights. Yao Yuan stood at the edge of the small window and looked at the decreasing number of dragon knights on the city wall. A trace of relief appeared on his face. It seemed that hope had come. The Tsangyan army had suffered serious losses. After a while they should retreat. After all, in a siege, once more than a quarter of the army was lost, the commanding general should consider giving up. This was common sense unless the commanding general was crazy and wanted to exchange the whole army for a city. "Marquis, we're going to win," an advisor of the inner mansion said excitedly. "Yes, they will not be able to hold on for much longer." Yao Yuan also smiled. But at this moment, there was a sudden violent explosion in the air. The entire east tower was shaking. Wood chips, bricks and tiles fell from the sky. A monstrous divine power came from the sky with the pressure of Mount Tai. "Guards, protect the Marquis." A group of guards with swords in their hands stepped forward. But the one who came was a god with a golden shield, Luo Fei. Boom! The powerful shield strike shattered the group of guards into powder. Luo Fei had a cruel smile on his face. Suddenly he turned around and a woman with a long spear stabbed at him. "Dora. It's you." Yao Yuan growled. "Yes, it's me. I'm here to take your life. It's Xin's order." Dora giggled. It was such a beautiful smile, but it looked like the fangs of the devil. Dugas stabbed forward with his spear. A dense divine power surrounded the surroundings, immobilizing Yao Yuan. When the spear pierced through Yao Yuan's heart, Dora rushed over before Yao Yuan died. An exquisite dagger appeared in her hand. The dagger of time. Once the dagger of time appeared, time seemed to stop. Yao Yuan could even clearly hear the sound of the dagger cutting his throat. Pfft! Blood spurted out. A pair of black light wings opened behind Dora. She raised Yao Yuan's head high and shouted, "Yao Yuan is dead. Do you still want to resist?" Yao Yuan had died in battle. Now there was one less white-robed imperial forest in Zetian Palace. Chapter 836. Clang. Someone's spear fell to the ground, but more soldiers from the archery unit fired their arrows and roared, "Avenge the Marquis. Kill this B***key. You're courting death." The Deg's spear danced and a massacre unfolded. The entire east tower exploded and light shot into the sky. This meant that Linghan City had officially fallen. Ah! Fu Yu, who was on the ground, stared at the sky in shock. He saw Dora holding Yao Yuan's old head and smiling at him. "Lord Dora." Fu Yu immediately knelt on one knee. Buzz. Dora threw Yao Yuan's head to the ground and said, "Commander Fu Yu, this gift is for you." The bloody head rolled on the grass and Fu Yu's face was filled with joy. "Thank you, Lord Dora, for helping us take over the city." Dora smiled. The Blackstone Empire is also a citizen of the Western Divine Realm. There's no need to be so polite. Yes. However, just as Dora finished speaking, a murderous aura suddenly descended from the sky, making it difficult for her to even breathe. It was a very familiar aura. Kim was here. The cold blade was pressed against the back of Dora's neck. Sheen's voice was filled with coldness. "Why do you want to kill him?" "Why?" Dora suddenly smiled. The blood on her hand suddenly turned into a bloody mist and seeped into her skin. The light of the dagger of time rotated and the surrounding time and space distorted. Before Xian could react, Dora had already spread her black wings, and the dag's spear turned into a bolt of lightning and pierced towards Xian's chest. "No. Dora, are you crazy?" Terralyn's scream came from the sky. Pucci. Golden blood splattered everywhere. Although Xian dodged quickly, the dig's spear still managed to pierce a half-centimeter deep wound on her arm. Fresh blood quickly stained her white shirt and the cape collar on her shoulders. The 50th Grotto Heaven's wave of God continued to tear at the wound. Duo LA's killing intent had been triggered. "Dora!" Xian yelled, "Don't force me." "I didn't force you." Dora abruptly pulled back her Fergus spear and gently licked the blood on it. She became extremely bloodthirsty and the light around her intensified. She stood there like a blazing sun. After killing so many people, Dora's strength had clearly increased significantly. This was the black-winged battle angel's strength. The more people she killed, the stronger she became. Staring coldly at Xian, Dora calmly said, "The Lord Ruler has asked us to end the war in the lower realms as soon as possible, but you've repeatedly delayed and delayed. You can't even bear to slaughter the ants on the ground. How can you be a war angel with a personality like yours? The battle angel was born to fight and you are just a weak and benevolent woman. How about I end your twisted godhood?" Terralyn and Lake descended from the sky and stood behind Xian. Lake looked angry. "Dora, are you crazy? Don't forget that Xian is the captain of the battle angel team. How dare you be so disobedient?" "No, this is the Lord Ruler's divine decree." Dora waved the dagger of time in her hand and smiled. "Anyone who obstructs me can be killed on the spot. Terralyn, Lake, you are the heirs of the major families in the divine realm. Do you want to use your lives to be buried with Xian's ignorance and stupidity? You." Terralyn's beautiful face twisted in anger. Xian raised his hand and infused the astral sword with the power of the law of light. He said, "Terralyn, Lake, retreat. I want to eliminate this traitor for the battle angel team." "Yes." Terralyn and Lake bowed respectfully, then spread their wings and flew away. Below the city walls, countless soldiers of the Blackstone Empire and the Qin Empire stared dumbfoundedly at the upcoming battle of the gods. However, most of these soldiers and generals were newly promoted. Not a single one of them could recognize Xian's appearance. It was a pity that Yao Yuan, a veteran of 3 generations, had died at Dora's hands. This was the true reason why Xian was so angry. "You speak so righteously, but you have so many selfish motives. You are no longer fit to be the captain of the battle angel team." Dora raised the spear of Fergus and said, "In the name of the Lord Ruler, I remove you from your position as the captain of the battle angel team. From now on, Xian, you are officially exiled. Come, let's use this battle to solve all our problems. It is time." The corners of Xian's mouth curled upwards. A smile hung on her beautiful face as boundless killing intent spread out. At this moment she had completely unleashed her killing intent. A dazzling law spirit bead danced and trembled around her delicate body, providing the purest light elemental energy to its master. Beams of light wrapped around the stellar sword layer by layer like a tidal wave, burning the sword bright red. Just like what Vice Dean Li Fei had said, true light was something that mortals couldn't perceive. Could burn everything. Spirit Pearl of Law? Dora's expression turned cold. The burning desire in her eyes grew stronger and stronger. Her beautiful face became extremely malevolent. She laughed loudly and said, "Your divine spark is mine, Xian." Ha ha. Hum. The power of light turned into a sharp cone that engulfed the spear of Fergus. At the same time, time seemed to have slowed down a lot. This was the effect of the dagger of time. It used local time chaos to interfere with Xian's movements. However, what Dora did not expect was that Xian's movements were only slightly slower. Half a second later, the astral sword suddenly pierced through the wall of time. The Spirit Pearl of Law danced wildly. Xian did not even need a second to break through the interference of the dagger of time. The astral sword that was burning red hit the stab of the spear of Fergus with a clang. Xian opened her palm and a resplendent ice crystal instantly condensed. She hit Dora heavily. Ha! Dora's reaction was extremely fast. After a shout, the wall of time solidified in front of her. Instantly, the dragon crystal and the wall of time collided. The explosion shook the entire eastern city wall of Linghan City. The light turned into a substantial force that swept in all directions. Everyone could not help but retreat. In the air, the contrast between Xian's golden wings and Dora's black wings was so intense. Bang, bang, bang. Continuous explosions came from the sky. Gold and black entangled with each other, and the sound of divine power colliding was endless. Dora came from the barren plain of the Western Divine Realm. Since young, she had learned how to kill her opponents and survive. Her fighting style was very extreme. Her quick and fierce close-range attacks were very fierce. She even forced Xian to be unable to fight back. Traces of God's Wall of Time had already appeared on her arms and legs. The Spear of Fergus contained the divine power of the Divine Realm and could easily break through God's Wall of Time. Coupled with Dora's ruthlessness, it was normal for Xian to show signs of weakness. Terilyn trembled as she watched. Her snow-white wings flapped gently behind her. She said loudly, "Lord Xian, don't hesitate. Kill her. The ruler and Lord Xian Seraphim will not blame you. Even if they blame you, we will bear the responsibility together." Lake nodded. "Yes, Lord Xian, use the eyes of the blazing light." On the contrary, Luo Fei, Dory and a few other supporters of Dora watched in silence. They were waiting for the result. If Dora died, they would quickly pledge allegiance to Xian. If Xian died, they would also legitimately pledge allegiance to Dora. Clang! The heavy blow from the Spear of Fergus was too much for Xian to bear. She crashed into the city wall, and the huge rock wall that was several meters long and wide was instantly reduced to dust. Her entire body trembled in pain. Her eyelashes trembled slightly, and tiny blood-red flames lingered around each of her eyelashes. Finally, she activated the eyes of the blazing light. When she opened her eyes, it was as if the entire world had frozen. Dora snorted coldly. She tried her best to look directly into the eyes of the blazing light. However, the moment she made contact with the eyes of the blazing light, she felt as if her soul was being burned. The pain came from the depths of her heart, and it was far beyond the pain of her physical body. The stellar sword descended with the wind at an astonishing speed. The sword aura was hundreds of meters long, and it almost swept across Dora's body. Bang! Dora couldn't even block a single attack this time. She spat out a mouthful of blood and fell with the Spear of Fergus, landing miserably on Fu Yu's side. Fu Yu and the others had to take several steps back to avoid Xian's sword aura. Even so, many of the Blackstone Empire's soldiers had been killed. No one knew if this level 7 battle angel had done it on purpose. "Everyone get out of the way." Xian raised her left hand, and a dazzling golden ice crystal fell from the sky. Boom! The ground trembled and the place where the Blackstone Empire's army stood turned into an abyss. Dora stood in the air with her spear in hand. Her body was covered with wounds and she looked battered. She smiled bitterly and said, "Is talent and bloodline really that important? I can't accept this kind of fate. I will never submit. Kill me, and you will be the strongest person in the Western Divine Realm in 100 years." The strong wind blew and Xian's cloak fluttered in the wind. She looked at Dora quietly and suddenly disappeared. She had shattered the void and her speed was unbelievably fast. In the next moment, the stellar sword descended from the abyss of fire. Xian planned to use this attack to split open Dora's head. As cruel as Dora was, she wanted to make her die as miserably as possible. In that instant, there was no mercy in Xian's heart. However, in the midst of the light that shattered the void, another purple light flashed. Another person had shattered the void and stood between Xian and Dora. The earth trembled and the spiritual energy in the earth and rocks in the surroundings was instantly drawn out, forming a huge rock shield that blocked Xian's sword. Furthermore, this rock shield was strengthened by divine power, and could withstand all attacks of the laws. Bang! The blade of the sword cut through the rock shield by about 20%, but it could not go any further. In front of Xian, an imposing middle-aged general appeared. The marshal's insignia on his shoulder was shining brightly. It was the marshal of the Blackstone Empire, Bailey Qin. Chapter 837. Dang! The star's sword slashed through the rock shield, making a crisp sound. Xian's body slowly spun in the air. Her left fist was filled with the power of light and she punched the rock shield again. "Lady Xian, please reconsider," Bailey Qin shouted. He quickly added more god power to the rock shield. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to block the girl's attack. Peng! Yin's fist carried an earth-shattering force as it landed on the rock shield. Cracks started to form on the rock shield. At the same time, Bailey Qin was shocked to see Duo La wail in agony as he retreated while vomiting blood. Yin's attack was not aimed at him but at Duo La, who was behind him. She had cleverly channeled a portion of her strength through the rock shield to attack Duo La, who was behind him. In an instant, Bailey Qin's mind was in turmoil. He had to re-evaluate the cultivation of this level 7 golden-winged battle angel. Her understanding of the law of light had probably surpassed most of the divine kings and even god emperors in the Western divine realm. Even Bailey Qin, a god emperor with 87 grotto heavens, felt his soul tremble when he looked into her eyes. His aura also became chaotic. It wasn't a gaze that only humans or gods had. It was a power that was outside of the 3 realms. It was a mysterious power that couldn't be explained by the laws of the universe. "Get out of my way," Xian shouted. She waved her sword with both hands. In an instant she unleashed more than 10 attacks. Finally, Bailey Qin's rock shield broke. He quickly retreated and raised his fist. His entire body was filled with a solemn aura. Even his skin seemed to have turned into stone. He suddenly stood in front of Duo La and shouted, "Endless rock wall." Ping ping ping. Rugged rocks that were enshrouded with divine power appeared around Bailey Qin's arm. He shouted, "Master Xian, I apologize for offending you." The wind from the punch was extremely cold. It seemed to tear through space. The huge pressure made Xian almost unable to breathe. Emperor God Bailey Qin's cultivation was not fake. Moreover, he was an emperor god who was close to the 90th stage of grotto heaven. Once he broke through the 90th stage, he would be able to step into the realm of a peak emperor god. The air was filled with rock god power. Along with his punch, Xian was unable to attack anymore. He could only give up part of his attack to defend. Buzz. The dragon crystal in the sky let out a shrill cry. Bailey Qin's mighty attack landed on a resplendent dragon crystal. Ping. A shockwave spread out, and the normal soldiers who were closer to the city could not withstand the shock, and they all died with blood flowing out of their mouths and noses. Behind them, the walls of Linghan City that were already on the verge of collapse could no longer withstand the shock and began to crumble. The great city that the Qin Empire had spent thousands of years to build was destroyed by such a light punch. Woo-woo, Xian frowned slightly, and a stream of golden blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth. The difference in their realms was too great. Even though she had the eyes of blazing light, she was still injured. Bailey Qin was extremely shocked as well. He, a dignified 87th level heavenly abode emperor, was actually beaten by this gentle and beautiful young girl to the point that his bloodline was in a mess, and he almost threw up blood. If he was really injured, it would be a head-on blow to the morale of the entire Darkstone Empire, and his invincible legend as the marshal would be destroyed. Enough. Bailey Qin retracted his fist, and gave a military salute to Xian from the Blackstone Empire. Their military salute was very unique. They clenched their right fist in front of their chest, and the fist was placed at their left ear. It seemed bold and unrestrained. "Lord Xian, Dora is also a battle angel. She is one of the gods sent by the celestial realm. Please calm down, Lord Xian, and let Dora go this time. Can I, Bailey Qin, ask for a favor on behalf of Lord Dora?" Bailey Qin's attitude was very respectful, and the soldiers and dragon knights of the Blackstone Empire behind him were dumbfounded. They could not understand why Bailey Qin was being so respectful. That angel girl with golden wings was clearly not a match for Bailey Qin. In their memories, Bailey Qin was not this kind of person. He was a famous general who could destroy an entire city with a flip of his hand. He was also a fierce general. Actually, what everyone did not know was that Bailey Qin was not being respectful to the girl in front of him, who had activated the strange eye domain. Instead, it was the woman behind her, Seraph Xian. The reason why Xian could become a seraph was because of her strength. In the entire Western divine realm, she was second only to Claude. Secondly, it was because of Xian's ruthlessness. For tens of thousands of years, those who angered Xian did not have a good ending. She had even destroyed a plane with her own hands. Such a woman was actually this girl's older sister, and she cared for her in every possible way. If Bailey Qin offended Xian, not to mention his 87th Grotto Heaven realm cultivation, even if he was at the 99th Grotto Heaven realm, he might not have an easy time. After all, the war between the Shattered Cauldron Realm and the Celestial Pole Continent might end in a few years. As long as Xian and Ziyao's divine pact was no longer valid, she could come to the mortal realm at any time. The moment this seraph descended to the mortal realm would most likely be the day of his death. Bailey Qin wasn't stupid. On the contrary, he was very careful and smart. A person who knew how to judge the situation was a truly smart person. Bailey Qin was like that, but Duo La wasn't. Duo La only wanted to climb up the ranks and would use any means necessary. However, she didn't know that under the influence of benefits, friends and enemies could change. Arg! Duo La's left arm was a bloody mess. She couldn't help but let out a blood-curdling scream. Xin looked at her from afar and said coldly, "From today onwards, Duo La is no longer a member of the Battle Angel squad. I won't restrict her from doing anything. However, if Duo La continues to be so cruel and ruthless, I will definitely kill her on behalf of the ruler and Lord Xian." With that, Xin closed her eyes and turned to the group of Battle Angels. "If any of you want to follow Duo La, I won't force you. However, if you follow Duo La, you will voluntarily leave the Battle Angel squad. From today onwards, if we meet again, please consider whether you are a friend or a foe." Duo La panted heavily. She looked at the people in the sky and said, "Zhou Xian, come here." Zhou Xian didn't say anything. Instead, he spread his wings and flew behind Xin. He said, "Duo La, I, Zhou Xian, am a member of the Battle Angel squad. Other than Lord Xin, I will not follow anyone else." Duo La was so angry that she gritted her teeth. Zhou Xian was probably one of the smarter ones among the 10 members of the Battle Angel squad. Duo La's many attempts to seduce him had failed. Even when Duo La was completely naked on Zhou Xian's bed, he was still able to snore like thunder. This kind of man wasn't a man at all. This made Duo La feel that Zhou Xian was definitely not normal. Perhaps he was gay like those highly civilized people in the lower realms. However, Zhou Xian didn't think so. The moment Duo La climbed onto his bed, he felt disgusted. Zhou Xian had grown up in the Tianqi family. He had seen all kinds of women since he was young. His upbringing was different from Luo Fei's. Luo Fei's father forbade him from getting close to women, but Zhou Xian's father had given him an extremely good education since he was young. From the age of 15, he had played with countless beautiful two-winged angels. Therefore, Zhou Xian didn't have any reaction at all when he met someone like Duo La. In the end, it wasn't because he had good willpower, but because he was tired of playing with women. Now that he had followed Xin to the Banished Land, then to the Shattered Cauldron Realm, he had been at Xin's beck and call, eating wild beast meat, eating wild vegetables, drinking river water, and enduring all kinds of hardships. Luo Fei. Duo La glared at Luo Fei angrily. Luo Fei slowly flew over. Although he knew that Duo La was using him, he had fallen deeper and deeper into her trap. He had already fallen in love with Duo La. He had fallen in love with this unscrupulous woman. He had fallen in love with her devilish beauty. He had fallen in love with her perfect curves. He had fallen in love with her soft panting in the middle of the night. He had fallen in love with her domineering attitude. Fell in love. "Duo Li, come here too," Duo La said calmly. "Yes, sister." Duo Li had long since belonged to Duo La. Xin couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. Duo Li was a level 5 battle angel with 35 layers of grotto heaven cultivation. She would be an extremely powerful existence in any of the lower realms. Unfortunately, she was practically the weakest in the 10-man battle angel team. It was precisely because of this that she had chosen to submit to Duo La. Unfortunately, Duo Li had chosen the wrong path. Nothing good would come out of following Duo La. The rest of the team made their stance clear. Out of the entire 10-man battle angel team, 6 were on Xin's side. Only 2 supported Duo La. It was very simple. Everyone could see how much Seraph Xian favored Xin. However, Claude's care for Duo La was a private matter. Everyone could only see the 2 divine weapons, but not Claude's public protection. In the entire Western Divine Realm, although Claude was the ruler, the real army and divine power were controlled by the 2 seraphs. As long as Xian and Eva were willing, they could make a change and overthrow the ruler Claude. Of course they wouldn't do that. Battle Angel Team, time to retreat. Pin faced Fuyu. His tightly shut eyes seemed to be looking at him. He was holding Yao Yuan's head in his hands. Fuyu shuddered. The scene of him being beaten by Xin until his front teeth flew out was like a nightmare that haunted his mind. His palms instantly trembled. "Can you give me his severed head?" Pin asked. Yes. Fu Yufei stepped forward and handed Yao Yuan's severed head to her. He asked, "Hey, I ask why?" "Oh. Get lost." "Yes." Xin turned around and said, "Terralyn, help me find Yao Yuan's body. I want to bury him." "Yes." Terralyn flew into the ruins. In the blink of an eye, she carried Yao Yuan's headless body out. Her white royal robe was stained with blood. It was a ghastly sight. Terralyn couldn't help but frown. Why are there so many wars in the human world? It would be great if there were no wars. Lake crossed his arms. Humans have always been like this. Aggressive and selfish. Xin turned around again and looked at Bailey Qin. "General Bailey, can I make a request?" Bailey Qin respectfully replied, "No problem. As long as Lord Xin asks, I will do my best. Please rest assured. Don't massacre the city. Leave behind a complete sky province. Is that all right?" "Yes, Lord." Bailey Qin thought for a moment and said, "But this is a war after all, so deterring the enemy's will to fight is a must. I can give the order not to slaughter the city, but I must kill all these soldiers in Linghan City and use their heads as a sacrifice to the brave warriors of my Darkstone Empire that perished in battle. Otherwise, I'm unable to face my own subordinates." Xin frowned. "Since that is the case, can you give me 2 hours?" 2 hours? What? Xin slowly descended and held Yao Yuan's head. "Just 2 hours. You can enter the city after 2 hours. Otherwise, you will have to step over my dead body." Bailey Qin. Chapter 838. "Lord Xin, you're making things too difficult for me." Bailey Qin held his head high and said, "As the Darkstone Empire's marshal, I can't allow my soldiers to gallop about freely and kill my enemies. If I do this, it might harm my prestige as a marshal. I hope Lord Xian can reconsider and understand me." "Killing is where prestige lies," Xian said. "Even though I'm not well versed in the art of war, I do understand that orders must be strictly enforced. The strictness of military orders will give rise to majesty. True majesty doesn't come from killing. Killing will only bring fear." Bailey Qin was stunned. Lord Xin has really made up his mind? "Yes, it's only for 2 hours. I hope Marshal Bailey can give me this face. Then. All right then." Bailey Qin raised his arm and shouted, "Stop for 2 hours. After 2 hours, kill your way into Linghan City." "Yes." The group of captaincy all saluted. Xian spread open a pair of golden wings and slowly rose into the air. Her voice was laced with the wind as she yelled, "Soldiers and citizens of Linghan City, please leave the camp immediately and escape from Linghan City through the western gate. Go as far as you can." The soldiers on the city wall were all shocked. They didn't know where this woman came from, but they knew that she was right. There was still time to leave. Otherwise they would suffer the same fate as Yao Yuan. Although many of the soldiers of the Qin Empire didn't fear death, dying for nothing wasn't a sacrifice for the country. Very quickly the soldiers on the city wall and within the city quickly retreated. Although there weren't many of them left, there were still about 7,000 to 8,000 of them. If they could preserve this strength, they would be able to save some soldiers for the Linghan province. Xin just stood there in the air, closing his eyes and waiting for time to pass. Terralyn, Lake, Zhou Xian and the others all flew up and stood a few hundred meters apart. They were Xian's subordinates and would follow Xian's orders unconditionally. Therefore they stayed here with Xian to delay the advance of the Blackstone Empire. Time ticked by. After resting for a while, Dola's injuries were basically under control. He brought Luo Fei and Duo Li to the front of the central tent and said respectfully, "Thank you, Marshal Bailey, for saving my life. Dola is unable to repay you." "There's no need to be so polite, Lord Doral." Bailey Qin smiled faintly and said, "This is nothing. As a god of the lower realm, I have always yearned for the past of the Western Divine Realm. I do not wish for 2 battle angels to fight each other." "Yes?" Dora asked, "Why is the Marshal indulging Xian so much? She's a citizen of the Western Divine Realm, yet she's obstructing the citizens of the Western Divine Realm from attacking. This is completely illogical." Bailey Qin smiled faintly and said, "Lady Xian is benevolent. After all, this city is the future city of the Blackstone Empire. She probably doesn't want to see a bloodbath." "Humph." Dora laughed coldly. "Perhaps." 4 hours passed quickly. When all the incense had burned down, Bailey Qin smiled and said, "Can we enter the city now? Lady Xian, if you have the time, why don't you take a seat in the city? We'll clean up the place very quickly. She naturally understood what he meant by cleaning up the city. She politely declined and said, "Thank you for your kindness, Marshal. I'm heavily injured and will return to Yanming Mountain now." "Then farewell, lady." Xian, Terralin and the rest slowly flew up. Meanwhile, Bailey Qin led a group of beast cavalry into the city. He looked at the civilians in the distance and said, "Kill them all." A captaincy was stunned and said, "Marshal, they're not soldiers. What if they're militia?" Bailey Qin smiled. Captaincy also smiled. He unsheathed his long sword and laughed loudly. "Brothers, let's charge in. Leave no one alive. Tonight is the night of our celebration." Behind them, Linghan City was filled with cries and shouts. A few kilometers away, Xian suddenly stopped flying. Her eyelashes trembled violently as if she was about to go berserk at any moment. "Xian," Terralin said softly. Terralin said in a gentle voice, "You're utterly unable to stop it. This is the Darkstone Empire and they live by slaughter and brutality. You'll only be able to save a few lives, but most of the people in the city will be unable to escape this misfortune." Xian gradually calmed down. Terralin asked again, "Xian, I have a question I've always wanted to ask you." "Speak. Why do you always side with the Shattered Cauldron realm? Is it just because you're benevolent?" "I don't know." Xian shook his head. Terralin smiled. "Perhaps there's more to it?" "Yes." Xian pondered for a long time before saying in a low voice, "Terralin, for as long as I can remember I've been in the Banished Lands. But after coming to the lower realms, many people say that I'm that Qin Yin. Dingxi and Yao Yuan say the same. These days I've been thinking about what I should do if I really am that Qin Yin." Terralin was stunned. Qin Yin is the Empress of the Qin Empire. She's been missing for 6 years. But what if? She trembled all over, unable to control her emotions. Terralin smiled gently, held her hand and comforted, "It's okay. Even if you're really Qin Yin, we're still friends. You have your position and I have my position as a friend. Even if I can't help you, I won't make you my enemy. I'd rather be a person who doesn't do anything than become someone like Dora. Don't worry." Xian nodded, but then she thought of Xian's last words. "Be your true self." Could it be that Xian already knew that she was that Qin Yin? "In short," she said faintly, "it doesn't matter if I'm Qin Yin or not. I can't do anything that I'll regret in the future. While I'm still the captain of the Battle Angel Squad, none of you are allowed to start a war with the army of the Qin Empire. If necessary, kill Dora and Luo Fei." "Ah." Lake, Zhou Xian and the others were stunned. Terralin smiled. "I can't beat Dora, but Luo Fei, it's not impossible to kill him. The power of the Nia family is not even 1/10 of our light clans. Moreover, they have more than one heir in their family. Killing him won't have much impact. This is the lower world, so it's not a big deal. But what should we do next? We can't keep running around like headless flies, can we?" "I know." Xian said, "Our 20,000 troops will arrive at Yanming Mountain in 3 days. Let's wait for them to arrive." Xian fell silent again. She wanted to know who she was and she wanted to know if she was that Qin Yin. She wanted to know what she should do if she found out. This made her feel like there was a thorn in her back. At the same time, at the western border of the Swift White Province in Lingnan, in the depths of the White Leaves Forest, on top of a square rock in the jungle, a young man sat cross-legged. His eyes were closed and his palms were naturally placed on his legs. Streams of icy air condensed from his palms, mixed with a faint golden luster, rose up. In the blink of an eye, the surrounding trees were plated with a layer of frost, and the whole forest seemed to have entered a cold winter. He breathed gently. Every time he breathed, layers of frost dust would be blown away. There were a total of 32 layers, which was enough to prove that he was a God King level expert of the 32nd level Grotto Heaven. Moreover, his aura was stable. His understanding of the law of frost was clearly not something an ordinary God King could compare with. "Wu Tong." A violent voice came from the wind. It was Fire Fist Jing Jian. He came with the wind and his body was covered in flames. He said, "Oh my God, you bastard, you turned the White Leaves Forest into winter again. How many rabbits do you want to freeze to death?" Wu Tong opened his eyes and smiled. "Can't you just use your fire force to soften it? What are you yelling for? I don't know what to do with you." Jing Jian opened his fingers and clenched them into a fist. Then he gently retracted his fist. Immediately, layers of dense flames spread out. With a low shout, the fire force immediately surged out, melting all the frozen things around him. What's going on? Wu Tong asked. Good news. Zhou Xian's face was filled with joy. He smiled and said, Heavenly Emperor Fuxi sent us a message from the sky beyond heaven. What? Wu Tong was shocked. The sky beyond heaven is hundreds of millions of miles away from the three realms. Can Heavenly Emperor Fuxi's message reach our White Leaves forest? Do you think Heavenly Emperor's cultivation is the same as ours? Scope. Heavenly Emperor's message was sent to Scholar Ling. Come with me to take a look. I haven't seen it yet either. All right. The two of them turned into light and shot away. In a cave abode in the mountains, the elegant and handsome Scholar Ling held a longsword embryo in his hand. His face was brimming with a confident smile as he said, Divine book seems like it's nothing much. In just a few short years, Scholar Ling saw through the dust and actually cultivated to the god realm. It could be seen from his long breathing. Swish swish. The two figures slid 100 meters on the grass and leaped into the cave abode. Ice Palm and Fire Fist had always been so vigorous. Scholar Ling did not even need to raise his head to know who it was. What about Heavenly Emperor Fuxi's message? Zhou Xian asked. Don't be anxious. Take a look at the wooden box. Inside is the treasure that Heavenly Emperor prepared for the two of you. Oh. Wu Tong opened the wooden box and saw a black elixir lying quietly inside. A faint fragrance came from the elixir. He asked, This is? I don't know what it is either, but this is a type of spirit medicine from an alternate world. It can promote cultivation. The two of you split it in half and eat it. It can greatly improve your cultivation. All right. Zhou Xian held up the elixir and said, Did Heavenly Emperor only bring this? Of course not. Scholar Ling smiled and said, I want the two of you to improve your cultivation so that you can go help the heir of Heavenly Emperor. He is in big trouble. Hasn't the heir returned to the Empire? The two of you only know how to cultivate and forget everything else. Now that the Qin Empire is being invaded by enemies, the heir's life is in danger at any time. Then why don't we hurry? Don't rush. Eat the elixir and improve your cultivation before you go. Otherwise, the two of you won't be of much help. Scholar Ling opened his palm. Instantly, rays of golden light flashed and turned into an ancient book. He said, I still have a secret book from Heavenly Emperor Fuxi's inheritance. It is the martial arts technique that he wants us to give to the heir. The secret manual appeared to be very old and shabby. On the cover there were 5 words written in large font. Formless elephant formula. What kind of technique is this? Wu Tong was shocked. I don't know either. With my cultivation I can't understand it at all. Scholar Ling said, Also, this isn't a secret book prepared for us, so there's no need to think about it. Zhou Xian held the elixir in his hand and said, Then why don't we leave this elixir for the heir? Wouldn't it be better after he uses it? There's no need. Scholar Ling said, The heir has the disposition of a supreme being. This kind of elixir is of no use to him. He cultivates the God King Dao, which is completely different from the mortal heavenly Dao that the three of us cultivate. Alright, quickly eat the elixir and start cultivating. Wake the Demon King tomorrow morning. It's time for us to serve the heir. Yes. Chapter 839. Xianxia was one of the prefectures along the eastern coast of Tongtian province. Xianxia's main source of income was seafood, but now that the Tianji Empire had invaded, the East Sea was already under their control. Almost all fishermen who entered the sea to fish were killed or detained. Since the day the provincial capital of Xianxia County fell, the entire prefecture fell into a deathly silence. Everyone felt insecure and didn't even leave their homes. In the early morning fog, the sound of hooves could be heard in the forest. Black figures on war horses galloped into the open space in the forest. The two people at the front were wearing red cloaks and white cloaks. They were the 10,000-strong cavalry led by Tang Xiaoxi and Lin Muyu. However, they had attacked and captured 3 prefectures on their way from Dingzhou to Xiangzhou, and they had lost close to 1,000 men. Now there were less than 9,000 of them left. Watch out, there's a scout. All of a sudden, Tang Xiaoxi looked into the distance vigilantly. With a xiao sound, a cold arrow was shot out from the bushes not far away. It was a black-armored cavalryman of the Tianji Empire. Lin Muyu moved with her heart and instantly teleported several meters away. She raised her hand and with a pa sound, grabbed the arrow that was flying at high speed. She took a look and saw that the arrow had even been coated with poison and was completely black. Ah! A scream came from the forest. The black-armored cavalry was shocked. He quickly hung his bow to the side and urged his horse to gallop away. It was clear that Lin Muyu was far more powerful than him. The best choice was to run away as soon as possible after missing the target. However, how could Lin Muyu let him go? She urged Treading Snow and chased after him. Treading Snow ran very quickly and caught up to them in less than half a minute. Lin Muyu grabbed her treasured carving bow and released an arrow. Pfft! The white arrow pierced through his battle armor and went straight for his heart, killing him in one shot. He's actually a heavenly king. Lin Muyu frowned and said, the Tianji Empire is really full of talented people. Even a mere scout needs a heavenly king realm expert. Tang Xiaoxi dismounted from her horse and took off her scout's military rank. She smiled and said, he is not just a simple scout. He is a Shaoqi chaplain, a low-ranking officer with the rank of a centurion. Moreover, he has this insignia on him. It was an emblem with 2 white clouds on a dark blue background. It was very intricately made. Lin Muyu had seen this before. She had seen it on Si Kongyao. She could not help but exclaim, Tianji sect. You know him? Yes, the Tianji sect is one of the 3 great king sects of the celestial pole continent. They have as many experts as there are clouds in the sky, and their sect master Si Kongming is the strongest expert in the celestial pole continent. Looks like the Tianji sect has already participated in this war. Captain Si Wangyang said, Your Highness, since they've dispatched so many scouts, then it shows that they're prepared. We're less than 15 kilometers away from the Xiang Prefecture's county city, so are we going to fight or not? Fight. Lin Muyu raised her sword-like eyebrows. Since we're already here, how can we not fight? There are only 5 dragon knights in Xiang Prefecture County. Since they dare to stay and defend the city, I'll let them know the consequences of underestimating the enemy. Wang Yang was overjoyed. Then this general will order our brothers to have a good rest and attack the city in the afternoon? No. Lin Muyu raised her hand. We can't attack Xiang Prefecture County with all our forces. What? Wang Yang was stunned. Lin Muyu smiled confidently. We're all cavalry, so we won't be able to gain any advantage by attacking a county city. If we attack Xiang Prefecture County by force, we'll probably lose at least half of our forces. Don't forget that they still have 20,000 elite soldiers stationed in Xiang Prefecture County. Pass down my order. Everyone is to rest and eat where they are. When it's close to noon, Wang Yang, you're to lead 1,000 men to attack Xiang Prefecture County. Take off half of your armor and pretend to be defeated soldiers who have been starving for a long time. Wait until their provisions team enters the city and plunder them. Pretend to attack for a while and then leave. Plunder as many things as you can. Don't get hung up on fighting. Yes. Wang Yang nodded, but he couldn't help but ask, Your Highness, what's the point of feigning an attack like this? I'm afraid we can't even kill a single soldier of the Tianji Empire. The art of war is deceitful. Lin Muyu said with a laugh, there is a saying in the Book of War. If you can, show what you can't. If you use, show what you can't. If you are near, show what you can't. If you are far, 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 show what you can't. If you are using advantage, lure the enemy. If you are using chaos, take it. Avoid the strong, be proud of the humble. I asked you to lead 1,000 people to rob the food because I wanted to tell them that we are short of provisions and that we are just a weak team. The defending generals of the Tianji Empire in the city will definitely be impetuous and become arrogant soldiers, eager to make contributions and get out of the city to hunt us down. You lured them into the place we set up in advance. In this way we have no choice but to win. Wang Yang's eyes lit up. Your Highness is indeed worthy of being called a famous general. This general has learned a lot. Since that's the case, please tell me where to set up the ambush. This subordinate will follow your plan. Lin Muyu opened the map and looked at the terrain in front of her. Then she said, It's here, the disorderly grass forest. The terrain is messy and suitable for an ambush. You take 1,000 people with you. The remaining 8,000 people will be divided into 2 groups and set up an ambush on both sides of the official road. Listen to my orders. Use the magic crystal crossbows to shoot them as soon as possible. You must kill at least 30% of their troops before their dragon knights can launch the dragon defense spiral. Yes. Wang Yang obeyed and went to make the arrangements. Tang Xiaoxi looked at Lin Muyu with a smile. The morning breeze was blowing her beautiful hair. It was an indescribably beautiful scene. Why are you looking at me like that? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Tang Xiaoxi said, you're so handsome when you're making decisions and deciding victory from 1,000 miles away. Xiaoxi, you're about to become a love-struck fool. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. She reached out to hold Tang Xiaoxi's hand and said, this is a killing game. It has nothing to do with whether I'm handsome or not. Maybe you think I'm good-looking, but in the eyes of the opponents, I'm about to become a real demon. Since the Tianji Empire dared to stretch the battle line so far, I'm going to make them pay a heavy price. Wang Yang, go lure the enemies. You and I will arrange the ambush. After the ambush, I will try my best to open up the spiritual meridian technique to disturb the spiritual sense of the opponents. When the dragon knights arrive, we must kill 2 of them first. We'll use our strongest attack directly. You and I will act together. Hey, I'll listen to you. A murderous intent emerged in Tang Xiaoxi's eyes. At this moment she was no longer the Fu Guojunju or that innocent girl. Instead she was one of the people in charge of the Qin Empire who bore the hatred of her country and family. In the evening the sun set slowly on the hillside and the forest started to darken. All the soldiers in the Longdan army camp had tied up their horses. Even the mouths of the horses were tied up to prevent them from making any noise. All of them had their eyes wide open, and they were holding magic crystal crossbows that were glowing faintly in their hands, waiting for the battle to begin. The Tianji Empire had defeated the main forces of the Qin Empire with great momentum and seized many prefectures and counties. In the blink of an eye, the Qin Empire had lost over 300,000 soldiers. Everyone was waiting for a hearty victory. They had never looked forward to a victory like this before. The strength of one's opponent could often make one stronger. The army of the Tianji Empire was such an opponent. Lin Muyu was lying in a pile of weeds. His eyes were calm and composed. If one looked closely, one would find that his body was glowing with a faint golden luster. The golden luster was rippling like invisible waves, but it was very weak. If one did not look carefully, one would not be able to see it at all. This was the spiritual meridian barrier activated by the Supreme Personality. This barrier was like a huge spiritual power barrier, and all the auras within a few miles were protected by Lin Muyu. Even a God Realm expert riding a dragon might not be able to see through the 8,000 warriors of the Qin Empire lying in ambush on the ground. Why are they not here yet? Tang Xiaoxi was holding the nation-suppressing whip impatiently. The sky was about to turn dark. Don't worry. They will come. Trust Wang Yang. Soon, the messy sound of horse hooves came from the end of the official road in the weeds. Before long, the golden dragon-shaped flag of the Longdan army camp could be seen on the horizon. They're here. Lin Muyu said in a low voice. Don't act rashly. You can only act when I say so. Everyone nodded. Do. The sound of horse hooves was very messy. When Wang Yang and the light cavalry of the Longdan army camp rushed into the weeds, everyone could clearly see that Wang Yang was already injured. His left arm was covered in blood. Many of the soldiers of the Longdan army camp who followed behind him were also injured. The number of people who returned was far less than 1,000. There were only about 200 of them, and the remaining 800 were mostly killed by the Flowing Spirit Army. So ruthless. Lin Muyu's eyes were filled with anger. He slowly pulled out the Ice Origin Sword. At this moment the roar of a dragon came from the sky. A dragon knight descended from the sky, and its wings slashed a 1,000-year-old ancient tree into pieces. A ball of scorching dragon flame was spewed on the road. Dozens of cavalry of the Longdan army camp were buried in the sea of fire, and their screams were unbearable. Wait a while more. Lin Muyu's voice was very soft. There were not enough soldiers of the Flowing Spirit Army in the forest. It was not enough for the Longdan army camp to bite them. After another 5 minutes, more than 5,000 cavalry of the Flowing Spirit Army entered the encirclement. Lin Muyu immediately raised his sword and shouted, "Attack!" Shwa 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 shwa. The soldiers of the Longdan army camp who were lying in ambush on both sides of the road all shot out their magic crystal crossbows. In an instant, more than 3,000 miniature magic crystal cannons exploded in the midst of the enemy. Beams of light shot into the sky and destroyed the enemies and their mounts. Lin Muyu's target had long since locked onto the Dragon Knight at the very front. With a wave of her Ice Origin sword, her entire body turned into a sharp arrow as she shot forward. Her long sword glowed with the light of the first appearance of stars as it slashed down heavily. The middle-aged Dragon Knight was startled. He hurriedly raised his dragon spear to block. Bang! Sparks flew. Dozens of cold waves of God directly shook his arms until they were numb. When he looked up again, Lin Muyu's blade had already condensed a bright energy that was like the sun. Ah! The Dragon Knight was startled. He was only at the 12th level of Grotto Heaven. How could he block such a powerful attack from Lin Muyu? Crack! The dragon spear was directly cut into two by the Ice Origin sword. Lin Muyu pressed down on the blade and instantly cut the Dragon Knight's head and shoulders into two. After the blade swept past, the Dragon Knight's corpse had already been burned into a pile of ashes. The red dragon that had lost its master fell to the ground after letting out a cry. A large hole was burned in its head by the purple sun. It was obvious that it would not be able to survive. Chapter 840. The Tianji Empire had conquered more than half of the Tongtian province with an unstoppable force. They had long become a proud army. How could the army stationed in Xianxia Prefecture have imagined that there were 8,000 elites from the Qin Empire behind a group of defeated soldiers? Moreover, the commander of this elite army was a super godly state expert. When Lin Muyu looked up, she saw the god's seal blasting open the head of a green dragon. Tang Xiaoxi's nation-suppressing whip swept through the air and almost cracked the head of the green Dragon Knight. The poor Dragon Knight was only at the divine heaven state. He was classified as a Saint Martial Venerable in the Celestial Pole continent, but he could not withstand a round of attacks from Tang Xiaoxi. "Xiaoxi, watch out!" Lin Muyu shouted. Tang Xiaoxi looked up and saw a Dragon Knight riding on a black dragon. He held a burning battle axe in his hand and swung it down from the sky. The battle axe created a light that was dozens of meters long, and energy splashed everywhere. This was a Saint Martial King with at least the 30th Grotto Heaven realm cultivation. He was also the strongest among the 4 Dragon Knights. Boom boom, flame soared into the sky. Tang Xiaoxi instantly transformed into a 9-tailed demon fox. Her beautiful face became even more enchanting. She held the nation-suppressing whip in her right hand, and a book with a demonic light appeared in her left hand. It was the Ghost Tome of Death. Fear. Tang Xiaoxi opened her palm, and the pages of the Ghost Tome of Death flipped rapidly. Streaks of black spiritual energy flew out and soared into the sky like a huge whirlpool. In the blink of an eye, it surrounded the Black Dragon Knight. His Yi immediately entered a state of chaos. Thousands of ghosts were boiling, and even the speed and strength of the battle axe in his hand were reduced by at least half. The Ghost Tome of Death was originally a treasure used for support. It was demonic and domineering. The demonic energy in Tang Xiaoxi's body could be said to be the supreme of the 3 realms. Naturally, the Ghost Tome of Death was twice as effective in her hands. Let's go. Tang Xiaoxi abruptly raised her whip and locked onto the opponent's battle axe. The 9 fiery tails behind her rapidly swayed as Tang Xiaoxi forcibly dragged the Martial Saint King-level Dragon Knight off her dragon's back. Lin Muyu shot forward like a bolt of lightning, her long sword carrying the 5 mountains descending from the heaven's profound energy, aiming straight for her opponent's back. Fremon. This burly man's strength was formidable. His body abruptly spun, and the law of fire's divine power erupted once more. He actually managed to break free from Tang Xiaoxi's grip, and his battle axe furiously chopped towards Lin Muyu behind him. Clang! Sparks flew as the Ice Origin sword clashed with the battle axe. Lin Muyu didn't give in at all. She used 100% of her divine power to fight against her opponent. In comparison, this Martial Saint King-level Dragon Knight was at a disadvantage. He looked at Lin Muyu in disbelief. How could this brat who was only at the 20th Grotto Heaven realm be able to suppress him in terms of strength? Behind him, Tang Xiaoxi's attack came again. It was still the Ghost Tome of Death. Ghosts descend. Blood-red ghosts broke through the air and bound the Dragon Knight's body. He hurriedly shouted, "Black Dragon, bite her to death. Now. Quick." Roar. The black dragon opened its bloody mouth and bit towards Tang Xiaoxi's slim waist. Tang Xiaoxi's speed was astonishingly fast. After entering the nine-tailed demon fox state, her strength was definitely no lower than the 45th Grotto Heaven realm. Her body instantly grew by nearly 10 meters. She raised her palm, and the divine array seal struck the black dragon's mouth without any obstruction. Instantly, raging flames swept out, and this poor black dragon died in the sea of fire while howling in pain. Bang! Before the dragon knight could turn around, his waist was already punched. It was Lin Muyu's charged attack, and the place where the punch was punched was actually glowing with a faint moonlight. Be asterisk starred. The dragon knight was already furious. He spun around and waved his battle axe, wanting to kill the two people in front of him. However, when he tried to raise his chi, he realized that he could no longer accumulate divine power in his chi. His meridians seemed to have been completely crippled by the punch just now. How is this possible? He was dumbfounded. His body trembled, and a sword with a frosty cyclone pierced through his chest, piercing through his heart. This holy martial king expert died humiliatingly under the joint attacks of Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi. Ah! In the sky, there was still a young red dragon knight. He was also a holy king realm expert, and he was also an apprentice dragon knight. He could only watch helplessly as his mentor and companion were killed without being able to resist. His world had been turned upside down, and the scene before him was like a nightmare to him. After the huge dragon roared, he actually rode the huge dragon and charged into the sky. He was going to escape. The two divine-level experts from the Shattered Cauldron realm before him were not people he could contend against at all. Mu, don't let him get away. Tang Xiaoxi had also led troops for a long time, and she knew very well that she couldn't let him get away. This place was 20 kilometers away from Xianxia County. Once this dragon knight went back to report, they would probably not be able to launch a surprise attack on Xianxia County. The flames around the ice origin sword surged, and Lin Muyu directly threw the long sword out. Dragon flame spiral break. The long sword that was spinning at high speed seemed to have eyes, and it pierced through the huge dragon's neck from below. Then it pierced through the young dragon knight's heart. Instantly, both the man and the dragon died on the spot, and they fell from the sky. The outcome had been decided, and what they had to do next was to quickly pacify the battlefield. Lin Muyu waved her palm, and dark clouds gathered in the sky. In the blink of an eye, a heavy rain fell, and the surroundings became unbelievably dark. Suddenly, a few resplendent ice crystals fell from the sky, sweeping across the ground and turning hundreds of flowing spirit army soldiers into a pile of minced meat. The celestial dome dragon crystals were very useful in a chaotic battle. Tang Xiaoxi transformed into a ball of raging flames and shuttled through the crowd, creating a sea of fire. In addition, the soldiers of the Longdan army camp pulled out their swords and slashed at them. In less than 5 minutes, the defense of the thousands of enemy soldiers had been broken, and they were defeated and fled. Get on the horses. Lin Muyu ordered loudly, chase after them. The flowing spirit army outside the forest are all infantry, and we are faster than them. Use the magic crystal crossbows and kill as many as you can. The thousands of people in the Longdan army camp all got on their horses and rushed out of the dense forest with the two commanders. The ground was filled with killing. The flowing spirit army had about 10,000 people, half of them were cavalry and the other half were infantry. The cavalry was almost completely wiped out, while the 5,000 infantry soldiers were fleeing towards Xianxia County like a tide. But how could their legs outrun the 4 legs of the war horses? Everyone in the Longdan army camp was filled with killing intent, and carried out a massacre as though they were cutting melons and vegetables. In the darkness of the night, among the flowing spirit army, a Chiliarch shouted loudly, "We can't escape, scatter. All of you scatter and run for your lives." The thousands of infantry soldiers quickly scattered and escaped in all directions. Lin Muyu rode on Snowwalker and chased at the front, and immediately ordered decisively, "The Longdan army camp must not scatter. Follow me to Xianxia County, that is our true objective." A group of cavalry soldiers galloped in the darkness, using their fastest speed to attack Xianxia County. They had to launch a surprise attack before they could react. If not, they would suffer heavy losses even if they seized Xianxia County. In the darkness of the night, a majestic city sat on the land of Middle-earth, Xianxia County. The city that had been through wars for a long time had once again ushered in an unknown number of times. On the city gate tower, a dragon rider dressed in fiery red armor was feeding a giant dragon. His fire dragon was devouring the lambs sent by the people one by one. After the Tianji Empire occupied Xianxia, they did not massacre the city as cruelly as the Blackstone Empire. Instead, they put up a notice to pacify the people, but there was a price. The people had to provide food for the army and a large number of livestock to support the giant dragons, tigers, and leopards in the flowing spirit army. A general wearing the military rank of 5,000 soldiers smiled and said, "Sir, look, there are already torches in the distance. There are about 5,000 to 6,000 people. It seems that the troops that went out of the city to pursue and kill have returned with a full load." Hee hee. The dragon rider smiled faintly and said with disdain, "The Qin Empire of the Shattered Cauldron Realm is simply too weak. If they could withstand a little more, we wouldn't be so bored as to herd sheep and horses every day and stay in a place like Xianxia where even birds don't shit. Yes, with Sir's ability, you are more suitable for attacking cities and territories. Staying in Xianxia is simply putting a sledgehammer to crack a nut. I really don't know what Sir Dragon Rider Sichuan is thinking." "Humph. Sir Sichuan is the vice commander of the Tianji Dragon Rider Squad. Do not speak profanely. I don't want to hear such words a second time. Otherwise, I won't be able to keep my head." Yes. The general was so scared that his whole body was trembling. The dragon rider suddenly looked at the sky in surprise. "What's wrong, sir? Someone is coming." The dragon rider hurriedly pulled out his dragon sword and ran straight in the direction of the fire dragon. However, it was already too late. A blazing sun instantly bloomed in the sky and rapidly fell down. It was Lin Muyu's purple sun plunge. Bang! The entire south tower of Xianxia County was instantly razed to the ground. The dragon rider was still alive, but his left arm had been blown off. He crawled towards his dragon pathetically, but when he looked up he realized that half of the fire dragon's body had been blown up by the opponent's fierce attack. "Who is it?" He forced himself to raise his head, only to see a man holding a sharp sword in his hand descending from the wind. Crack! His head rolled in the mess. The dragon rider, whose cultivation had not even reached the 10th level of Grotto Heaven, died in humiliation in the defense. The defending troops in the city were already in a mess. The south tower was razed to the ground, and the cavalry of the Longdan army camp rushed forward with magic crystal crossbows. Even the hastily formed spear formation of the defending troops was defeated by a few dozen magic crystal crossbows. Without the protection of the dragon rider's dragon battle spiral, the Tianji Empire's army could not resist the magic crystal weapons at all. After an entire night, the defending troops of the Flowing Spirit Army in Xianxia County were almost wiped out, and the casualties of Lin Muyu's subordinates were not low. After this battle, the number of people had decreased from 9,000 to 6,000. After all, it was a large-scale battle and casualties were inevitable. When dawn came, the Longdan army camp hurriedly replenished some dry rations in the city and gave up on Xianxia County. There was no way for them to defend the city by themselves, and the army went straight to the granary of Xianxia County. At noon, the 3 granaries outside the city were on fire. This was Lin Muyu's tactic to avoid a direct confrontation with a strong enemy, and to attack when they were unprepared. Close to 300,000 soldiers of the Flowing Spirit Army had entered Tongtian province. As long as they caused trouble and burned the granaries so that they could not get any food supplies, they would be able to delay their advance. The 3 armies were based on food, and without food they could not fight a war. This was also the most fatal weakness of the Tianji Empire's expeditionary army. Chapter 841. Vine City was a city located in the mountains. Around the city walls of Vine City grew a kind of vine called Dragon's Beard. It could extend for dozens of meters, so it wrapped around the walls of Vine City. Every summer it would bear fist-sized fruits. They tasted sour, but they could be used to fill one's stomach in times of famine. Because of this, the walls of Vine City were covered with vines, but no one cut them down. Around noon, the banners on the city gate fluttered. The flag of the Purple Yinhua Empire fell into the muddy water and was trampled by the cavalries coming and going. A flag with a red cloud symbol fluttered high in the air. Just last night, Vine City had fallen. Now it was under the control of nearly 150,000 soldiers of the Tianji Empire. The city was surrounded by densely packed camps and tents. It was a magnificent scene. Inside the city lord's mansion, General Baiming Huan gently placed the report on the tea table, his face a bit ugly. Looking at the generals on both sides, he said, 2 days ago 3 prefectures in Xianxia were attacked. Most of the rations were burned and the attackers were all cavalry. They left immediately after the attack, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye. How many times has this happened? Below him, the strategist Gong Xiangming said respectfully, the 11th. Let's talk about it. What should we do? Bai Minghuan looked at the generals coldly. After a long while no one spoke. He suddenly slammed his palm on the table and said angrily, a bunch of useless things. Speechless at the critical moment. What is the point of the Tianji Empire keeping you all? General, please calm down. Gong Xiangming raised his teacup and said, this is obviously Lin Muyu's tactic of harassment. The valiant dragon battalion in Tongtian province has been disbanded. Lin Muyu knows that they can't confront the main force of our Tianji Empire head-on, so he disbanded the valiant dragon battalion into small forces and used their mobility to pin us down. Then he set fire to our rations. With the rations as the foundation, he will destroy our foundation. Bai Minghuan took a deep breath and said, Sir, do you have a plan? Yes. Gong Xiangming smiled. I have 3 plans. Which one do you want to hear first? Tell me first. Yes. Shi, it's very simple. The Tongtian province is like a huge basin. As long as we are willing to sacrifice our military strength, we can send over 100,000 soldiers to attack the Luo River estuary stronghold. After we take over the Luo River estuary stronghold, we will be able to catch a turtle in a jar and eat up Lin Muyu's hundreds of thousands of Dragon Courage Battalion soldiers one by one. However, if we do that, we will definitely suffer heavy losses. I heard that Feng Jixing and Qin Yan have already led their troops to defend the Luo River estuary. Feng Jixing is also a famous general of the Shattered Cauldron realm. Yes. Bai Minghuan nodded and said, what about falling into the trap? Tell me. Gong Xiangming clapped his hands and smiled. It's even easier. My army can ignore the safety of the 5 provinces behind us and attack Heaven Connect City with all our strength. It is said that the people there have already evacuated. After we take Heaven Connect City, we will declare that we will slaughter the whole city and cut off the heads of their guards to serve as civilians. On one hand, it will shock the Qin Empire, and on the other hand, it will chill their morale. But the disadvantage of this is that it is only a temporary plan. Once we slaughter the whole city, I am afraid that the people of the Broken Realm will be very afraid of us, and we will not be able to win the hearts of the people. Bai Minghuan frowned and said, this plan will not work. Before I left, His Majesty had repeatedly said that to conquer the Broken Realm, we must first win the hearts of the people. We can lose the city but not the hearts of the people. Let's talk about the best plan, sir. Yes. Gong Xiangming's eyes flickered with a hint of fanaticism as he smiled. Lin Muyu has been on the battlefield for a long time and is well versed in the art of war. From his harassing tactics, we can see the capabilities of this unparalleled general. However, harassing tactics have their drawbacks as well. Each of Lin Muyu's troops has close to 10,000 men. They will also need to replenish their troops with rations and fodder. Therefore, we can take it slow. What do you mean slow? Don't be hasty. Take it slow. Gong Xiangming said, the first step is to strengthen the walls and clear the fields. Close the gates of each city and send a part of the army to guard it. Without orders, no one can leave the city to fight. The second step is to take over the granaries and pastures outside the city, so that the people in the Longdan army camp can't replenish their supplies. The third step is to open up all the granaries in different places to help the poor people and win the hearts of the people. The fourth step is to send people everywhere to spread rumors that the Longdan army camp is robbing the people's food and killing countless people. We can even send our people to pretend to be the soldiers of the Longdan army camp and slaughter some small villages. This will make Lin Muyu lose the hearts of the people. Then the 13 prefectures of the Tongtian province will be ours. Bai Minghuan's eyes brightened. He smiled and said, Sir, you are really a wise man. No generals of the 3 armies can compare to you. Gong Xiangming smiled faintly. A trace of loneliness flashed across his face. He said, if it weren't for the fact that I've been sick and weak since I was a child, I would like to charge into the front line and die on the battlefield. That would be better than being a weak scholar who can only make plans and overturn the seas in this turbulent world. Bai Minghuan smiled and said, Sir, don't worry. When the right time comes, the Western Heaven Realm will definitely send a messenger to help you open up your meridians and Qi Si with the light raw stone. Please believe me. You can definitely reach the level of a sacred warrior before you are old. Then thank you, Marshal. Then, what about Tongtian City? Should we fight or not? Tongtian City is already an empty city. The Longdan army camp has already retreated. But between here and Tongtian City there is a greedy wolf cliff. The Dingzhou Earl of the Qin Empire is guarding there with nearly 50,000 soldiers. If we want to go to Tongtian City, we must pass by Greedy Wolf Cliff. So the Dingzhou Earl must be eliminated. That's easy. Bai Minghuan smiled and said, the Dingzhou Earl is just an old man. We can use gold and silver to tempt him and his subordinates to join us. Have you forgotten? Along the way, how many prefectures of the Qin Empire have surrendered? No matter how important power and position is, can it be more important than life? Gong Shangming smiled and said, the Dingzhou Earl is an exception. He has lived in Dingzhou for a long time and has always been very honest. Even after we entered Dingzhou City, we didn't find any of his belongings. So this Dingzhou Earl is like an egg without a seam? No, it's very easy to deal with him. I sent people to investigate. The Earl of Dingzhou has 3 sons. One follows by his side and the other 2 are in Dingzhou doing business. We sent people to travel through the night to capture his 2 sons to use as blackmail. He loves his 3rd son very much. As long as we capture his 3rd son, the Earl of Dingzhou's 50,000 people will be ours. Hey, I'll leave this matter to you. Yes. 2 days later the Earl of Dingzhou surrendered and the Cliff of Greedy Wolf was lost. The 30,000 troops under the command of the Earl of Dingzhou surrendered to the Tianji Empire. The remaining 20,000 troops resisted with all their might, but they were killed and scattered. The few remaining soldiers wandered into the forests. On the 19th, Lin Muyu's troops seized 9 cities in Liezhou and set fire to the rations to cut off the Tianji Empire's retreat. On the 21st, Wei Chao's troops intercepted the reinforcements of the Tianji Empire in Zhangzhou and killed more than 5,000 people. On the 22nd, Situ Sen's troops burned the city of Junzhou. On the 25th, Lin Muyu's troops attacked the main camp of the Liuji army in Shangyuan County in Dingzhou at night and killed more than 3,000 people. On the 26th, Lin Muyu and Wei Chao's troops met in Shuzhou, but they were chased by the 50,000 soldiers of the Liuji army. They were forced to take refuge at the foot of the Tianqiong Snow Mountain. By the night of the 27th, the 100,000 Longdan army camp that Lin Muyu left in Tongtian province could no longer do anything. They suffered heavy losses and were routed. On the 28th, Bai Minghuan gathered a large amount of rations and led an army of 200,000 soldiers to the Luo River estuary fortress. The battle at the Luo River estuary was very important. Once the Luo River estuary was lost, it meant that the entire Lingdong province would be exposed to the iron hooves of the Tianji Empire. It would be difficult for the empire to resist the invasion of the Tianji Empire. Late at night, a warm wind blew across Lingdong. The 4th month of the Middle-earth continent was about to pass in the blink of an eye. After entering the 5th month, the scorching hot summer was about to arrive. On the western side of the Lingkong province, the sound of war drums rose to the sky. On the ground, the densely packed army of the Blackstone Empire was shouting fanatically. Their iron spears carried rotting human heads. Behind their war horses, ropes were used to drag the conquered women of Lingdong. Battle flags were erected in great numbers. Marshal Bailey Qin's face was filled with pride as he looked at the forest in the distance. There the war flags of the empire covered the forest. It was the army of the Tsangnan province, and the commander was the Marquis of Tsangnan, Su Jiantao. Su Jiantao, that fox. The corners of Bailey Qin's mouth curled up. After hiding from us for so long, this time he finally wants to face us head-on? Bailey Yan, do you think that we can successfully defeat them in this battle? At the side, the scholar Bailey Yan's gaze was ice-cold. Ancestor Su Jiantao is not a simple person. We cannot underestimate him. Since he dares to fight, it means that he has made preparations. Otherwise, with his steadiness in doing things, it is impossible for him to set up such a formation to face us. Is that so? Bailey Qin smiled. Lin Muyu's Longdan army camp has already been destroyed by the Flowing Spirit army in the Tongtian province. This Qin empire's like a stray dog. What does Su Jiantao have to fight against us? Using his measly 50,000 provincial army to fight against my 300,000 strong army? Ancestor, how should we fight? Crush them head-on. Let Su Jiantao witness the might of the Blackstone Empire. Bailey Yen was silent for a few seconds. Then let me bring 10,000 tiger leopard cavalry to flank them. Is that all right? And as you wish. Go. Yes. Deep in the night, a warm breeze blew against the dark blue flag of the empire. The war horses seemed to feel the sharpness of the tiger leopard cavalry and became restless. They snorted and stomped their hooves on the ground. Su Jiantao held a long spear in his hand and stood tall and straight on his horse. He looked into the distance. Could they win this battle? How good would it be if they were able to win? At the very least, they would be able to stop the slaughter of the Darkstone Empire and allow the commoners of the Southridge province to avoid the calamity of annihilation. After all, the Southridge province was the most fertile of the 4 great provinces in the south, and its yearly taxes were an entire 70% of the other 3 provinces. Once the Southridge province fell into enemy hands, the empire's treasury would be strapped for cash. How would they fight a war without money or food? Su Jiantao took a deep breath and said, "Let's prepare for battle." Yes. Chapter 842. The rumbling sound of war drums resounded out as the almost 100 dragon riders of the Darkstone Empire soared into the sky at practically the same time, and they formed a dense mass that was a rather magnificent sight. But as far as the soldiers of the Qin Empire were concerned, it was simply a nightmare. Vanguard attack. Su Jiantao pointed his spear forward. Yes, Marquis. The general of the vanguard rushed to Su Jiantao, his eyes full of determination. The vanguard battalion had a total of 3,000 people. All of them were heavy cavalry with swords and blades. They held onto the purple Enin flower banner, waving their weapons as they charged into the plains, killing and soaring into the sky. Facing enemies they had never seen before, the ferocious tiger leopard cavalry and wolf cavalry, everyone in the vanguard battalion was fearless. They clashed with their opponents, causing blood to flow everywhere. Dust flew into the air. Su Jiantao's hand that was holding onto the spear was trembling, his vision became blurry. The vanguard unit had followed him for 3 years, but now he had to personally send them to their graves. In less than an hour the 3,000 men were about to be wiped out. The vice-general couldn't bear it anymore. He gritted his teeth and said, "Marty, you can't fight like this. Do you know those brothers at the front are throwing their lives away? They are our brothers." Su Jiantao's eyes were deep. He said lightly, "Left army, prepare to attack." The commander of the left army was a young captaincy. He slowly unsheathed his sword, his eyes full of killing intent. Looking at Su Jiantao he said, "Marquis, I don't ask for merits. I just want my name to appear on the nation-guarding monument after I die. Then I will have no regrets. Go." Su Jiantao's body trembled slightly. "The Empire will remember you." "Yes." The commander of the left army raised his sword and shouted. The black mass of people had already charged out of the forest and toward the enemy in the distance. "Marquis." The vice-general's eyes were filled with tears. "There are 8,000 men in the left army. Do you have the heart to let these 8,000 brothers die in the tiger's mouth? Hey, this isn't your..." "Enough." Su Jiantao's eyes were ice cold. He held the reins and said, "His Highness, you ordered me to contain the Blackstone Empire's army and not let them invade North Ridge and South Ridge provinces. The Vanguard Battalion and the Left Corps brothers won't die in vain. Their deaths will make the arrogant commander of the Blackstone Empire proud and arrogant, making them embark on a path of no return." Is the Marquis so confident in the crystal cannons? It's not confidence, it's conviction. A cold light flashed in Su Jiantao's eyes as he said, "The Dragon Imperial Battle Spiral can defend against magic crystal cannons coming from the sky, but it definitely can't defend against magic crystal cannons coming from underground. The Blackstone Empire's army has massacred over 1 million civilians in the Sky Province. This debt can only be repaid with blood. Yes. Pass down my order. Prepare to retreat at any time. Once they entered Songnan Avenue, prepare to strike." "Yes, understood." 2 hours later the battle in the distance gradually subsided. The Vanguard Battalion and the Left Corps, a total of 13,000 soldiers, had all been turned into corpses. There wasn't even a single captive or injured soldier. Everyone had fought to the last moment. Moreover, the Blackstone Empire's army was cruel and ruthless by nature. They never had the habit of holding captives. "Crush these ants to death." The commander of the Blue Flame Army, Fu Yu, shouted. The earth rumbled as the dragon riders danced wildly in the sky. The beast riders and heavy-armored cavalrymen galloped across the ground. Retreat. The horn of retreat sounded. But just as Su Jiantao and the others turned around, they heard a series of whistling sounds coming from behind them. It was the tiger-leopard cavalry led by Bei Li Yan. In that instant, Su Jiantao felt as if his heart had been pierced by a sharp knife. He had done everything he could, but he didn't expect the enemy to have such a powerful person. Force our way through. Kill our way through. Su Jiantao raised his lance and roared as he spurred his warhorse forward. The forest was in a state of chaos. The imperial heavy-armored cavalrymen and the tiger-leopard cavalry clashed, and arrows flew everywhere. No matter how strong the tiger-leopard cavalry was, they were no match for the arrows. Not to mention that Su Jiantao's troops were equipped with white diamond arrows and magicite crossbows. The sounds of small magicite crossbows reverberated through the forest. Su Jiantao took the lead and slaughtered his way through the valley, leading his troops to retreat. Up ahead was the main road. The legendary Songnan Avenue, an ancient road that connected the soaring sky province, Songnan province and Lanyan city. Roar, roar, roar. The dragon's roar never stopped. Balls of flames fell from the sky, burning the soldiers on the ground. Su Jiantao raised his iron lance and charged forward. In the blink of an eye he was covered in blood. The people around him were dwindling and Su Jiantao couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. In the distance, flags were waving in the forest. Su Jiantao immediately raised his lance and shouted, "White diamond arrow boxes, aim and fire." Yes. In the forest at least 100 arrow boxes were pointed at the sky. The next moment when the dragon knight flew at a low altitude, the arrow boxes were activated. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. These steel arrows had arrowheads tempered with white diamonds. When fired at full force they could penetrate a 1-meter thick rock. Naturally they could also penetrate the dragon armor. In the blink of an eye, 2 dragon knights who hadn't comprehended the dragon defense spiral fell from the sky. The giant dragon let out a mournful cry as it tumbled into the forest, smashing through countless trees. No one knew if the dragon knight was dead or alive, but it was clear that he wasn't in a good state. As for those dragon knights who had comprehended the dragon defense spiral, they were forced to retreat as the arrow boxes continued to fire. Only the heavens knew how many ambushes there were in this forest. If they continued to charge forward, once the dragon defense spiral ran out, even if they didn't die they would be crippled. Behind them flames soared into the sky. The Blackstone Empire's beast cavalry and heavy cavalry all charged into the ancient road to the south. In addition, even the archers and shield soldiers quickly followed, their faces filled with greed. It was as if they were afraid that they wouldn't be able to get their hands on the jewels and women if they were too late. In reality, the Blackstone Empire was such a race. The wolf tribe lived and used greed as their driving force. "Marquis, that's enough," a captaincy shouted from afar. Su Jiantao frowned. There was a dense group of pursuers behind them and no one knew how many there were. He nodded and said, "Fire the signal cannons." Yes. With a bang, a purple mushroom cloud bloomed on the distant mountain range. This was the effect of the magic crystal cannons' bombardment. This was the signal cannons. In an instant, the dozens of magic crystal cannons hidden on both sides of the ancient road to the south that had been lying in ambush were all fired. The earth trembled as the heavy cannons tore through the ground and the forest. Purple flames shot up from the ground and exploded one after another. Su Jiantao had spent a whole 5 days to bury half of the Songnan province's magic crystal cannons here, all for this moment. Amidst the roar of the giant cannons, not only the Blackstone Empire, but also the Songnan garrison that had not been able to escape in time. The light that burst out from the ground was not something that the Dragon Imperial Battle Spiral could control. They did not even have time to scream before they were smashed to pieces. The sound of explosions rang out continuously, and the entire sky was illuminated. This was a nightmare. For the armies of the Blackstone Empire, this was definitely the case. Nearly 10 li of the ancient road to Songnan had become the range of the heavy cannons. In order to resist the hundreds of thousands of troops of the Blackstone Empire, Su Jiantao had almost sunk into a state of madness. He did not consider any costs or losses at all. Everything was for the purpose of stopping the powerful enemy. Giant trees were thrown into the air by the magic crystal cannons. The flesh and blood of people and the debris of the trees were burned to ashes, falling from the sky like black cotton. Su Jiantao and the others stood in the distance. Everyone was silent as they watched the purgatory-like battlefield. The Tsangnan Corps is finished. The deputy general's voice trembled. A captaincy held a long sword and said, "Once the fire is extinguished, immediately kill our way back." Su Jiantao nodded. "Send out a letter, order the troops lying in ambush on the two sides of Fort Qinling to kill their way out. Seal off the ancient road to Tsangnan. I want all the people of the Blackstone Empire to die." Yes. But at this moment suddenly there was a scream in the air. "Su Jiantao, I want you dead." It was Bailey Qin. A god emperor wanted him dead. How could Su Jiantao not die? "Protect the marquis." The guards all pulled out their swords. At the same time the archers quickly pulled out their bows and shot randomly. The shield bearers held up their heavy shields. Each of their shields was embedded with a bell-absorbing rock to interfere with the ability to shatter the void. Otherwise it was afraid that Bailey Qin would have already killed his way over. To capture the followers, first capture the leader. It was not that the people of the Blackstone Empire did not understand this principle. Get lost. Bailey Qin's fist landed on the ground. The wind from his fist was like a mountain, smashing a group of guards and soldiers into a pile of blood and flesh. As for Su Jiantao, he let out a miserable howl and was sent flying. He spat out a mouthful of blood and actually lost consciousness. "I'll take the marquis away. You guys block this beast." A guard dressed in the armor of the Imperial Guard immediately picked up Su Jiantao's body. With a twirl of the sword in his hand, the power of heaven and earth surged. The law of space's earth tome instantly sent him and Su Jiantao away from this place. In the next moment, the two of them appeared in the forest several miles away. However, the young royal guard knew that this couldn't hide from the senses of a god emperor. He hurriedly put down Su Jiantao's body and cut off a few vines to cover him. Then he carried his steel sword and rushed far away. Su Jiantao was already unconscious and his aura was at its lowest. It was impossible for the enemy to know where he was. As long as he could lure this killing god away, Su Jiantao would be safe. A white robe sprinted in the night. In the blink of an eye, there was a strong gust of wind behind him. Bailey Qin had arrived. His domain spread out and the young royal guard couldn't move at all. "Where's he? Speak." Bailey Qin reprimanded aggressively. The royal guard laughed as his young face was filled with fearlessness. The sword in his hand trembled as he held it horizontally before his neck. "The great Qin Empire shall exist for eternity." A stream of boiling hot blood splashed out and a young life was gone just like that. "Bastard." Bailey Qin was so angry that his body was trembling. There was the sound of a dragon flapping its wings in the sky. It was a dragon rider general. He said respectfully, "Marshal, our army has suffered heavy losses. We can't continue to chase after them. Otherwise we will be in danger of being annihilated." Bailey Qin looked coldly at the dead body of the royal guard and said, "Pass down my order. Retreat to Linghan City to rest." Yes. The moonlight sprinkled on the land that was dyed red by the flames of war. Many young lives ended here and many young dreams were shattered here. However, war had always been like this. He never knew what mercy was. Chapter 843. 2 days later, the news of victory flew to every corner of the Qin Empire. Su Jiantao's prestige shook the Tsangnan province. He killed nearly 120,000 enemies of the Blackstone Empire in one battle, and deployed a large number of troops at the Qinling Mountains and the fortress of the Ancient Road, guarding the two main roads, forcing the strong enemies of the Blackstone Empire to rest in Linghan City. This battle was equivalent to giving the Blackstone Empire a head-on blow. Moreover, the news of victory came after the death of the Marquis of Tranquil Sea Yao Yuan and the loss of the Lingkong province. The significance of this victory was incomparably far-reaching. "Good. That's great." In the hall of the Luo River Estuary Fortress, Feng Jixing tightly grasped the letter and read it word by word again. After confirming that this was really Su Jiantao's handwritten letter, he repeatedly applauded. He knew that the war in Lingnan was endless. Su Jiantao's courageous battle not only temporarily stabilized the situation in Lingnan, but also gave the overall defeated imperial army a shot of reassurance. Qin Yan also laughed. Su Jiantao is indeed worthy of being the 3 tiger generals of the Longdan army camp that Big Brother brought up. From now on his name will probably be known by everyone. Zheng Yifan squinted his eyes and smiled. Marquis Zongnan's victory report is certainly gratifying, but don't forget that there are 200,000 enemies of the Tianji Empire gathered in the north of the fortress. How should we deal with them? Feng Jixing pondered. Yes, how should we deal with them? Su Jiantao's battle strategy is the magic crystal cannon array that Yu Tianji used. If we use it as a reference, I'm afraid we won't succeed. Although Bailey Qin is an emperor god, he is indecisive and doesn't listen to advice. It's reasonable for him to fall into the trap. But Baiming Huan is different. Gong Xiangming can be said to be the best strategist in the celestial pole continent, and Baiming Huan can be said to listen to Gong Xiangming's words. As long as they advance step by step, we will be in a very passive position. Zheng Yifan nodded his head without saying a word. Xiang Yu frowned and cupped his fists. Your Highness Prince X and Your Highness Prince Zhong, I request to leave with the troops. Feng Jixing was stunned. Where is Master Yu going? Xiang Yu muttered. After the Blackstone Empire suffered a crushing defeat in Zongnan province, it is likely that they will definitely seek revenge. Moreover, the Mingshan province that this subordinate is defending is to the west of Lingkong province. Bailey Qin may move against Mingshan province at any time, and Shangyang City only has a paltry garrison of less than 10,000 soldiers. It is impossible for them to defend. Thus, this subordinate wishes to lead the 70,000 soldiers under me to travel 1,000 li to reinforce Mingshan province. Feng Jixing furrowed his brows and said, We'll discuss this matter later. After our army suffered a crushing defeat at the Blue Wind Sea battle, we already don't have many soldiers left. Now that Duke Yu has taken 70,000 soldiers with him, I'm afraid that there will only be less than 200,000 soldiers left on this steel wall. It's impossible for us to defend against the same number of soldiers from the Tianji Empire. Xiang Yu lowered his head and did not speak again. At this moment, the messenger outside made an urgent report. Princess Xi has arrived. As soon as he finished speaking, Tang Xiaoxi appeared in the hall in a red dress. Princess Xi. Qin Yan was overjoyed. How's the situation over at Big Brother's side? Tang Xiaoxi frowned slightly and said, Not good, we've been chased one after another. Mu and Wei Chao's combined forces are less than 10,000 soldiers. I'm afraid that Situ Sin and Situ Shui's forces aren't any better. The entire Longdan army camp has almost been torn apart. Mu asked me to come back and exchange information at any time. If the Luohiku stronghold goes to war, he can coordinate from the inside and the outside. With 10,000 soldiers in the Longdan army camp, they can at least cause a small impact on the Tianji Empire's forces. Where is he now? Feng Jixing asked. The northern mountain corner of Heaven's Vault Snow Mountain. Feng Jixing took a deep breath. It's already not bad that you was able to delay the Tianji Empire's 300,000 soldiers in Tongtian province for an entire half a month. Alright, we've received the latest news. Count Dingzhou has already headed north with 30,000 soldiers. Count Dingzhou has surrendered. Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. She bit her red lips and said, That old man is really a piece of **T. Feng Jixing smiled bitterly. There's nothing we can do. The enemy is strong while we're weak. The Tianji Empire has come with the momentum of a whale swallowing everything. Tongtian province's various provinces and prefectures have been lost one after another. The morale of the army is already in chaos. Fortunately, the morale of the soldiers guarding the steel walls hasn't fallen. Tang Xiaoxi said, I've patrolled when I came. The Imperial Army Camp and Divine Might Camp are in good order. Fortunately, you guys are here. Feng Jixing couldn't help but laugh. These 50,000 Imperial Army soldiers are my old brothers who have fought with me for many years. Naturally, they're very elite. Since you're here, Princess Xi, there's something I need you to do. Oh, what is it? Go to Winter Frost City and dispatch Ling Hu Yan's 200,000 Demon Clan soldiers to assist us in battle. Feng Jixing was afraid of offending her and explained, There are only 200,000 soldiers of the Empire inside the steel walls. Xiang Yu's 70,000 men may need to be sent to reinforce the battle in Lingnan, so there are less than 200,000 soldiers who can actually fight inside the steel walls. The Demon Clan army isn't directly under my or Yan's command. Only you can dispatch them. Yes, I understand. Tang Xiaoxi waved her hand. Someone serve tea. I'll go dispatch the troops after I have a sip. Thank you, Princess Xi. To the north of Winter Frost City, the Demon Clan's main camp stretched for dozens of miles. Close to 200,000 demon clan soldiers had been stationed in Winter Frost City for a long time. However, all the demon clan generals above the rank of captaincy only listened to Ling Huyen, and Ling Huyen only listened to Tang Xiaoxi's orders. In the central tent, the incense from the western regions was burning in the incense burner, and the smell was extremely fresh. Tang Zhen, who had a goatee, held a military book in his hand and muttered something. He had always been a general guarding the western regions, but he hadn't experienced many battles. Therefore, in terms of commanding troops and formations, he was much inferior to Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, and even Wei Chou and Su Jiantao. But it was also because of this that Tang Zhen had never given up on learning and growing. Beside him, Ling Huyen, who was wearing a light red dress, poured him a cup of tea. Then she came behind Tang Zhen and massaged his sore shoulders. She said, "Drink some heart-nourishing tea. It's good for your heart. Drink more and you won't often have heart cramps." "Yes, thank you, madam." Tang Zhen shook Ling Huyan's hand and said with a smile, "I really don't know how many lifetimes I've been blessed to have such a virtuous and beautiful wife like you." Ling Huyan chuckled and said, "You're getting old, but your mouth is getting sweeter and sweeter. You humph, if I'm not around you'll definitely learn bad things after hanging out with people like Situ Sin and Wei Chou for too long." Tang Zhen held his beloved wife in his arms and said with a smile, I won't. I Tang Zhen am very content. With such a good wife like you, I have nothing else to ask for in this life." "Alright, hurry up and drink the heart-nourishing tea. Don't let Her Highness reign and Her Highness she worry about your health. After we defeat the eastern barbarians, the door to the western regions still needs you, the general, to guard it." "Okay, I'll drink it." Tang Zhen picked up the teacup with a smile and drank it in one gulp, causing Ling Huyen to giggle. As time passed, Tang Zhen grew older. The two of them looked like an old couple, but what had never changed was their mutual help and respect for each other. Just as Tang Zhen had said, when a woman walked into a man's world, she might really be the only one in the world and he would not ask for anything else. "Oh, so loving." A familiar laughter came from outside the tent. Tang Zhen and Ling Huyen looked at each other and smiled. They turned around and bowed respectfully together. "Greetings, Princess She/Her Highness She." "Rise." Tang Xiaoxi walked into the central tent and said, "Ling Huyen, immediately gather all the generals, quickly break camp and set off. Follow me to reinforce the steel protective wall in the Luo River estuary area. We're about to start a direct battle with the Tianji Empire's Liuji Corps." "Yes, Her Highness She, I'll do it right away." Ling Huyen flew out of the tent. Only Tang Xiaoxi and Tang Zhen were left in the tent. "Tang Zhen, how are you?" Tang Xiaoxi asked. "Thank you for your concern, Princess She. I'm very well." Tang Zhen smiled and said, "It's just an occasional relapse, but it's nothing serious." Tang Xiaoxi said faintly, "There are not many people left in the Tang clan. General Tang Zhen, you must take care of yourself. Your illness is a chronic disease that won't be cured even after a long time. I've already sent people to visit famous doctors. We'll definitely find a cure." "Thank you, Princess Shi." Pass down the order. The National Garrison Army and the Demon Clan Army will set off together. The biggest battle between the Empire and the Tianji Empire will start at the Steel Protective Wall. That's what we want, and so does the Tianji Empire. Yes. Winter Frost City was not far from the Luo River Estuary Fortress. It took half a day to ride and a day to walk. The next day, the mighty Demon Race Army and the 50,000 Kingdom Guarding Army arrived at the southern part of the fortress. Looking from afar, the steel protective wall was like an impenetrable fortress in the fertile land. This protective wall cost nearly 200 million Jinyin coins. It was originally built by Wei Chou to defend against the demon race, but today, it had become an impenetrable fortress for the Empire to defend against the enemy. The affairs of the world were impermanent, and no one could guess how many opportunities would be brought about by each event. From afar, a group of cavalry galloped over. It was Feng Jixing leading the Imperial Guards out of the fortress to welcome them. "Thank you for your hard work, Princess Shi." Seeing the arrival of the 250,000 troops, Feng Jixing felt more confident. "You're welcome." Tang Xiaoxi chuckled. "We're just working for the Empire." "Oh yes, when I came here I saw many horse tracks and marching traces in the southwest." "What happened?" "It's Xiangyu." Feng Jixing pondered for a moment and said, "Xiangyu insisted on defending Mingshan province. Last night he broke camp and left with 70,000 troops from Mingshan province." He can't force it. Mingshan Province and Shangyang City are his lair. Once Mingshan Province is lost, Xiangyu will no longer be Duke of Nan in name and reputation. I can understand him a little. Yes, Lingnan does need more troops anyway. Although Su Jiantao achieved a great victory, it doesn't mean he can really wipe out the enemy army in Lingnan. Yes, let's enter the city. Is there any movement from the Flowing Spirit Army? Not yet. They're constantly mobilizing rations and supplies. They're probably trying to attack the steel protective wall. We'll see.